Thank you for joining us for this session of the Trying Family web series. We will begin shortly as we allow time for folks to make their way into the webinar. A quick reminder before we begin today's session, it is being recorded and it will be available later this week on the Parent and Family Programs YouTube channel. As well, it will be sent out to every registrant for today's session. To ask the question for today's session, please utilize the question and answer feature that's at the bottom of your screen. Please do not share any personal information. You may submit questions anonymously, and we will be having a live Q&A with our presenters at the end of the prepared information for today's session, but also we have staff on the back end who will be answering questions throughout the entirety of today's session. So at any time, please feel free to utilize that question and answer feature at the bottom of your screen. Just keep these important details in mind when you are asking those questions. Good afternoon, good evening, or good morning from wherever you may be joining us for today's Trying Family web series session entitled Home Away from Home Again. Navigating student housing for next year. We know that it may only be February 2026, but there are many moving parts when it comes for students to start thinking about and applying for living on campus next year. When it comes to searching for a roommate, if they're on or off campus, beginning their off-campus housing search, and the important things that students and their families need to know that go into all processes when it comes to procuring housing for the 2026-2027 academic year. We've got a great lineup of panelists joining us to cover all of the specifics from their areas and how they support students when it comes to planning for campus housing and off-campus housing, respectfully, for next year. And I know there's a lot of material to cover, lots of important dates and timelines. So I want to step aside and let our first presenter come on and join us, which will be Alex Valencia from Housing Diane Hospitality.
Thank you, Dan. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, families, students, parents, and supporters. My name is Alex Valencia. My pronouns are she, her, ella, and I am the manager for the Housing Administrative Services Office. So our office manages the housing contracts for the undergraduate students that are living on campus. And we love helping and answering any questions regarding their contracts. So at any time, we will provide some information here and we'll have a contact slide too, so you can take a picture of that later in this webinar in case you have questions. I have been here with UC San Diego for 10 years now, and we love being part of this journey with all of you. So we're hoping that this information we can provide you today will help start or continue conversations with your student, and it gives you information to help better support them, right? And just also helping them make a better decision for what their 26-27 academic year is going to look like. And if, like Dan mentioned earlier, if you have any questions during the presentation, please write your question in the Q&A feature. We will have subject matter experts that are ready to answer those questions on the back end. And then we also, again, do not provide any personal information. And then we'll also have, through each slides, we'll be adding some resource links in the chat so you can save those as reference. But okay, so we're going to start with the housing guarantee. So UC San Diego, we offer a 2-year housing guarantee to all our incoming students. On-campus housing is optional, so this is not mandatory for any of our students. Students admitted in fall of 2025, which is this current academic year. So both first year and transfer students, they are eligible for that 2-year housing guarantee. So students must live on campus and complete the full term for this 2025-26 housing contract to maintain that eligibility. This is a yearly process, so we encourage students to always be mindful of upcoming deadlines and checking their UCSD email account regularly. We do send multiple email reminders for all our upcoming processes and deadlines, so we want to encourage students to be checking those. And we also encourage you to add us as a contact list. So our email is housingcontracts@ucsd.edu. So it just makes it easier for you to find us and get those emails so they don't go into your junk or spam folder. Next slide, please. Okay, so housing eligibility, again, this is for students to maintain eligibility for that guarantee. They must meet all the housing deadlines. We're going to keep repeating this because this is so important for part of this guarantee process. So how does a student reserve their spot in housing for 26-27 academic year? We do have a few options. For students with a housing guarantee, they will go through a process called room selection. So this process takes place annually to secure housing for the following academic year. And it's a process where they self-select a space. So it's different than the first year. As a second year, you do select your own space. Students without a housing guarantee who currently live on campus will be able to sign up for a room selection interest list. And then you'll be able to see here the deadline. So we do have deadlines. This is going to start next week. It begins February 18th through the 26th. So this deadline is applied for both students with a guarantee that are going through the room selection process and also the students that don't have a guarantee that want to be signed up to that room selection interest list. Now, for non-guaranteed students, if they did miss a deadline, unfortunately, the next step is the waitlist. Our fall waitlist will open this year on May 11th. So we'll have more information about the waitlist in the next slide, in a couple next slides. But so now, how does the student know if they are guaranteed or not? All our current residents, they received an email earlier this month. It was on February 2nd. That states their guarantee status. So if they are guaranteed, they got that email stating that they are guaranteed student. If they're non-guaranteed, they should know that by now. And also, we provide this opportunity. There's this window from the February 2nd until the 18th when the application process begins for students to reach out to us. So if you are incorrectly marked as non-guaranteed and should be guaranteed, you can reach out to us at housingcontracts@ucsd.edu and let us know so we can review your status for you. And this year, we're doing something different. So this year, the February 18th through the 26th deadline is for both housing application and the contracting process. In the past, we've had different deadlines for both processes. It's a step 1 and a step 2. This year is all combined, so it's all in one. So the students must complete the housing application, and then the housing contract will follow after that. Both of those need to be completed by the deadline of February 26th. So again, this is going to be for guaranteed students and for students that are trying to sign up for the room selection interest list that don't have a guarantee. So the difference is that guaranteed students complete their contract process and students will complete the room selection interest list for the non-guaranteed. Guaranteed students, they will submit their housing application. They do have to sign their housing contract and submit a prepayment of $450. So all of these steps must be completed in order for you to be set, right, by the deadline. So as long as you complete this by February 26th at 11:59 p.m., you should be all set. And just keep in mind that every time you do a process with us, you do get a confirmation email. So make sure you are getting that confirmation email once you complete your steps. It is very important, again, to not miss a deadline. Otherwise, you do forfeit that guarantee. And then I would suggest that you mark these down, our deadlines and details page. Just mark it and make sure that you have access to that so you don't miss the deadline. But what are the criteria for eligibility? So students must meet all the housing deadlines. They must live on campus for this year, 25-26, and complete the full terms of that contract, meaning that they're not terminating or canceling. The student must be a registered full-time student, which is defined as taking 12 units or more. The student should not have an outstanding account balance that is past due. So if you do have housing charges, you want to make sure that you pay that in full. And then also just maintaining compliance with all university deadlines and policies. Next slide, please. Okay, so this one, I know this is a big one and there's a lot of information here. So we recommend if you want to take a screenshot, take a picture, and then save the links that we're providing for you. Some of the tips that we recommend is either taking a picture of this slide or bookmarking our deadlines and details page. That way you're not missing any steps on the process. If any student is confused at any time, we are on site. Our office is open Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m., excluding university holidays. So they can come in person, they can call us, they can email us. We're always available for help. Our office is located in Revelle College. We are on the second floor of the RRSS Administrative Services building. And as you can see here, here are the dates. So February 18th through the 26th, this is for guarantee students to complete their application and contracting process. And then also for those non-guaranteed, you can submit your interest, express your interest into the room selection interest list, which is nice that you all have the same deadline. That's pretty nice just to remember that. And then February 19th through March 3rd. So students who completed their housing contract, they also have an option to apply for a living and learning communities, iHouse, or opt into gender inclusive housing. So these will be available. So please note that you don't have to wait until the deadline. As soon as you're completing each step, if anything's available for you, for example, you complete your housing contract by the 20th, you'll have access to apply for an LLC if you want to. And again, that's optional, it's not required. March 16th, so students who are accepted into the living and learning communities, we call them LLCs, or iHouse, again, they must opt out if you're no longer interested. So that's your deadline to opt out, March 16th. And please know that for the LLCs, these applications are through those living and learning communities. So the host of those colleges will be reaching out to the student, either confirming if you are accepted, denied, they will be reaching out to you by then. And then April 9th through April 10th, room selection lottery dates and times and roommate group pins for room selection sign up will be sent to your UCSC email account first. So make sure you're looking at your UCSC email for this, and then you'll be able to have this through the housing portal. So just know that everything that you do for your contracting phase or room selection process is going to be via your housing portal. April 16th to April 30th, this is the vacancy viewer that's going to be available online. You can log in through the housing portal. This is where you can see each of the college or location that will have an assigned date to complete the room selection sign up. Typically in the past, students only had one day to complete this process. We are giving an extra day now, so each community will have 2 days available to work on their room selection process. So just keep that in mind. And then just a note here, if you do not select a space on your designated room selection sign up time, if the space that you want is not available, please know that by you not selecting a space, you are going to be added to our delayed assignment list, which means that if you are part of the delayed assignment process, you will be assigned a space. So you technically have two options. You can be in the delayed assignment, which we don't know how fast that assignment could be assigned to you, or you can submit a cancellation, and based on cancellation policy, some cancellation fees may apply. And then lastly for this slide, May 15th, that's the last day to see your current apartment mate, roommate information until my room assignment reopens. So that's the last day you will be able to see all that information. And then it reopens back in like mid-August once the academic year room assignment is fully opened. And then for housing contract and dining options, we do have our dining rates available on our website now. So we do have flexible dining plans that are designed as like a la carte system. Students can decide what, where, and when they would like to eat or drink. Whether that's a quick stop for a pre-class snack or a hearty dinner, right? Whatever they feel like, they have the flexibility to manage their dining plan as they wish. And we do have over 50 plus dining market locations on campus, market and dining locations. And then again, we're providing links for you so you can check out the menus, you can check out the locations, you can check out the dining rates. Some of the tips that we typically like to give out for our students or provide is we typically recommend for students to select the lowest dining plan, just because if you ever run out, you can always add more at any time. But again, this is a housing and dining package, so they are combined. And then second, students will have the opportunity to change their dining plan during August and September. So once you do your contracting piece of it, you select the dining plan. And then usually mid-August, when the My Room assignment opens for everybody, you will have the option to reselect a dining plan if you want to. So that's in August and September. And our deadline to change that dining plan will be Thursday, October 1st. So after that deadline, please know that all the dining plans are locked for the whole academic year. And then again, your dining plan is connected to your campus ID card. So it makes it accessible for you. You don't have to be worrying about anything. It's all linked into your ID card. Okay, so roommate, apartment, and mate selection. The dining room selection sign up, you can add roommates and apartment mates based on the following factors. So one, you must be in the same room selection community. So for example, if a student is living at 8th College, you cannot pick a roommate that's living in Ravel. So the students must be in the same college of registration. Another factor is they must be in the same room selection category. So for example, if you are a first year student, you cannot pick with the transfer student because typically transfer students will be assigned to upper division housing communities. So those are different categories. Another factor would be the same gender marker. So if a student who has opted into gender inclusive housing cannot pick a roommate that has non-gender inclusive. So those are some of the factors that you want to be cautious about. We always recommend that you have different options available in case that when you log in, if your space has already been taken, that you have other plan B and plan C just in case you need that. Another factor would be limited to adding up to the largest apartment size or the suite that's available. So you want to make sure, again, you're planning accordingly. Each student participating in room selection sign up will have a roommate pin that can be shared with the person who will create the group. So for example, if you have a group and whoever, we will be sending a lottery time for signing up. That's just so it's random for everybody, but it's going to be based on your community. So whoever has the earliest time, you can give out your pin to that person so they can sign you up. The roommates or apartments mate selection is not required. You can participate also as individual, but if you are doing a group and you are sharing that pin, just know that you are giving consent to that other student to allow them to assign a space for you. Okay, so waitlist. So again, we talked about if anybody misses the deadline for either the room selection process or the room selection interest list, then the waitlist would be the next step. Or for students that don't have a guarantee and are not eligible to go through the room selection interest list, then the waitlist would be the next option. Again, we're opening the fall waitlist on May 11th. And then we typically ask that if you are still interested, because we understand that you're looking elsewhere and are trying to plan accordingly as best as you can. So if you at any time find off-campus housing, we do ask that you update that information in our wait list. So waitlist offers are based on available spaces. So waitlisted students can be assigned at any open undergraduate space on campus, even if it's not your college of registration, just because it's whatever's open at the time. And students are responsible for updating their information through the waitlist form. And that's also including removing themselves from the waitlist if you are no longer needing a space. Just to it helps us make sure that we run through the waitlist. And I can say that each year we have been able to provide an offer to every student on the wait list. Whether they accept the space that we offer, then that might be a different story, but we have provided an offer to all our students on the wait list. And the next slide. So our next slide is for summer housing. I know it's like we're not even in spring yet, but we're already planning for summer housing. So planning ahead and getting ready for everything. But summer classes are a great option to get ahead for credits, catching up on missed classes, or to spend some time here in San Diego because we do have beautiful weather. But we do offer two different programs. So we have the Accelerate program. This program is designed for current housing residents. So if you are living on campus now, this would be for you. You have to be here with our spring quarter. And you must be enrolled in UC San Diego summer session classes. That's at least one unit or more. And then we also have our traditional program. This is designed for both new incoming freshmen and new incoming transfer students, new incoming international students, UC continuing students not currently housed on campus, visiting students. So we have different groups of students that want to take a class during summer. So this program would be for you. The only requirements here is that you are required to be enrolled in at least one unit or more for summer courses. And you must be at least 17 years old to be eligible. It's still a little early for us to have all the information for summer 2026. So if you go to our website, it still has the 2025 information. Just know that we will be updating our website next month in March once we have more dates. And we typically like to go live with our housing summer application, typically in mid-April, just for this. This is for it to be in coordination with registering for summer. So we try our best to make sure that our processes are the same, that we start on the same date. But we are having a lot of changes this year. We are changing a new system, so I'm not sure that might be a little delayed. But I would just encourage you that if you are interested in summer housing, just keep checking our website so you are up to date with what's coming up next. And then this is our contact information. I encourage you to take a picture or email us at housingcontracts@ucsc.edu. So if you have any questions about room selection process, about your contract, about your dining plan, please email us and we can always route you to the appropriate area if it's not our office. And then you can always ask questions for whatever processes that you need. We're happy to answer those questions for you. And that wraps it up for us. I'm going to pass this on out to basic needs now. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Okay, so my name is Melsma. I am going to be sharing some off-campus services that Basic Needs Hub provides here for students that are full-time enrolled, of course. We have our off-campus housing website, which essentially contains a list of property, which contains a list of search recommendations of different properties, as well as it's essentially a platform where students can interact with each other and find a potential roommate or find a potential space that they want to lease with or another person to live with, as well as we do hold each quarter in spring quarter an off-campus housing fair on campus where a bunch of property managements will come on campus and essentially talk to students and see their interest if they want to sign up for a lease or answer their questions and concerns. And that's kind of done by Basic Needs. And moving on to the next slide. Off-campus, we have an off-campus website, which is like seen by us. So all the listings are read through our office. That means that it is safe for you to go out there and log in, which you will have to do by your UCSD user ID and create a personal account, view rentals, essentially to see more roommate search. This website is very helpful because there's a lot of scams, such as on Facebook or even like on Instagram. So it's something that like we have started for students on campus looking for off-campus housing, of course. And yeah, like next slide. Um, per oh, I yes. So this is what the website looks like. I highly encourage for you guys to make an account, even if you are not fully sure yet, because there's some really sometimes you will find like a good sublease deal that you're like, oh, I actually really like this. And it is a safer option because again, it is something that's not sort of like a scam. So I would recommend scanning the QR code, logging in the website, making an account, seeing potential roommates, or just finding other people to talk to just to get an idea of how much even it would cost for you to live off campus. So you're able to make a better decision and weigh out your pros and cons. And of course, that's the website. Next slide. In terms of a roommate search, that's also on the same website. Just make sure like when you're creating your roommate account, like your roommate specific account, you're adding like whether you need a place or you have a place, your gender, of course, as well as if you're postgrad, undergrad, as well as your pets and your cleanness. So you can find the best potential roommate essentially and be honest with yourself when you're answering the questions, especially like the last one and second last one, if you do want to get again a like have a pet throughout the year or if that's something you're interested in, just make sure you're able to communicate that very, very directly to your possible or potential roommates. And yeah, next slide. In terms of other like roommate searching tips that I want to share with you guys, it's the rent payment dates, lease terms, and length. Remember that leases can be month to month, it can be 6 months, or it can be 12 months. So make sure you're being more strict on yourself of like which one you want to sign up for because once a contract has signed, it's very, very, very hard for you to get out of it. And if you do, it may or may not affect your credit score, and that is additional stress upon being a full-time student on campus to begin with. So make sure you have that very, very like locked in, as well as relevant cultures and identity considerations if you want, like if that's what you're looking for, make sure that's also your priority, as well as your household preferences, like your pet peeves, if you're okay with someone or your potential roommate or your suite mates doing any substance use or having overnight guest policies, noise levels, cleaning responsibilities, lease breaking scenarios, shared detectors. I would kind of put it in like a three category where you're fully deal breakers, some things that you can work with and things that you're like you're perfectly fine with. And I would say be as in depth as you can be, and it's perfectly fine, especially if you're looking like at this point, like if you're looking now for fall housing, it's perfectly fine for you to be as in depth or as open about it because communication is key in the process of living with someone whom you don't know. And you're, of course, meeting them through a website, hopefully, the housing website that we offer, or even like any other platform on that's provided on campus. So yeah, I would highly encourage for you guys to like keep this in the back of your head as you're looking, especially the first one again. But moving next one. I would also say like remember that we are looking at the location of San Diego, which is in of course La Jolla as well as around areas. Like sometimes you might not get the best buck for your price, like essentially bang for your buck. So make sure you remember you're considering your rent, your utilities, your living expenses, entertainment in your budget. I always, as somebody who lives off campus this year, I always tell people to make sure that like add at least $100, $200 to your like monthly rent because you will use that amount. So just be very honest with the budget that you have and the budget that you're looking for. Consider maybe getting a roommate with you and having a suite mate so the cost can go down, and if that's something that you're looking for, as well as if your budget is not stable, I highly encourage you for looking for short-term lease. What this can look is, let's say if I know that I have savings for 6 months worth of like houses where I can pay like around $2,000 per month. So maybe I can afford to like have my own room for the first 6 months, and I will do that. So make sure that your lease is also 6 months. Like don't have like a year lease for a $2,000 monthly, but like monthly rent payment when that's like you're not able to attain that for the next 6 months, because that will stress you out, and you will either have to find another roommate or end the lease or have to evacuate, like they'll have to evacuate you out of the place, and that just turns into like not a really, really, really good thing for your credit score for yourself as a student. And of course, like give yourself time to complete your housing search. Please don't rush yourself. Like look at everywhere, anywhere. I think a really good thing that also helps is just like potentially just driving around in neighborhoods and seeing where places like where and seeing like the housing places. That's kind of how I found my housing, was I would just drive around neighborhoods and see like a lot of leasing options, and it will show up either on Zillow, your apartments, of course, like your apartment search, or like you'll just look it up with a buddy if you go. Also remember that the cost of rental application fees, I would say like it's between like $50 to $100 usually. So just make sure that you don't like you want to be very set on when you're signing up and very intent like have a good intention on the place that you're signing up for, because it will cost you fun like funds to pay for the fees, and you won't they will be non-refundable. And the third one is like, of course, some housing searches may be completed quickly, other take longer. So try contacting your properties as soon as possible. Yeah. And I think there's more on the renting tips. So we can go on the next slide. Also remember that San Diego is like already competitive market. Like I'm not gonna lie to you. So consider outweighs your pros and cons. For example, if you have a car, consider maybe living in North San Diego, like East San Diego, South San Diego, like Chula Vista, La Mesa, Hillcrest, City Heights, Claremont, Mira Mesa, University City, and maybe have like the commute and low on the cost. Or if you don't have a car, maybe go on the heavier end of like being having to pay more your monthly rent, increasing in rent, but you're close by. But let's say if you want to do low cost and you don't have a car, I would encourage looking for properties specifically closer to MTS, which is our metro station like here that provides services for students to come to campus essentially, or even the trolley. I think those would be the two best bets. And a lot of students do end up like that's kind of what majority of the students end up doing. And it does like work out in favors. So just again, be very honest with yourself, see what you have and work with it, and you will find the right solution. And yeah, keep your options open, of course. Moving to the next slide. Of course, also first time renting tips. I was also first time renter last year, not renters, like yeah, renter last year. So it's like a lot of this is like also like this. I would highlight. I really, really encourage you guys to like hone in if you are looking for off-campus housing. First one being like schedule your tours, virtual tours whenever possible. Contact properties as soon as you see a listing. Schedule tours, virtual in person. I highly encourage like on in-person part more, especially if it's a property that you're very interested in. Let's say you did their online tour because that's what a lot of the properties offer, but you're like this one actually like calls out to me. I really like this property. Before you like do your application because you like the property, just go in and see the place in person. Trust me, it will like make or break your deal. So highly, highly, highly encourage it. And of course, there's always scams. So if you think something like seems off about a site or something seems off about a listing, like you can always just go on like reverse image search, and like you if that same image shows up listing that it's not in San Diego, it's most likely fake, and don't give them any money. Or if any places are just like before even an application fee, they're asking you to give them like $500 to $750, do not give them money. Remember that like usually places won't ask for deposits before the application is due. Also, remember a lot of properties often requires 2.5 times the monthly income in comparison to the rent amount. That's the one that, for example, La Jolla Crossroads require. And what usually happens is either your parents or someone in your family members can like show the records that you'll be paying the rent essentially, and they let go of it. So no, you don't need to be having 2.5 times the money, but you need to show that, and that's kind of where the responsibility from your parents or your another family members or with a bunch of your friends or your tuition fees will come together and it will cover the cost. But that just kind of shows that like if the places are not doing that, then it's not like essentially like it's not, it might be fake. So just make sure you're not getting in the rabbit hole of seeing fake properties or in that scams. Next slide is also just a few more. Remember that leases are legally binded like documents. Review them thoroughly before signing. They're like 60 pages long, but trust me, you want to read every single thing that they're saying because a lot of it goes into it, like your renter's insurance, utilities, everything. So just make sure that you like hone down to it. And of course, reach out to student legal services. They're always here to help you. You can book an appointment with them for free. You can also actually reach out to what's the word? Basic Needs if you have any questions and if you want them to like help you anywhere or for in emergency scenarios, like you can always rely on us. Consider plenty of options. San Diego market is a competitive market. Again, beware of scams. If it seems too good to be true, it likely is. For example, if they're saying that they give you parking, they give you utilities, everything's paid for, it may be a scam majority of the time because there's always like something is missing and something is not missing, and that's just how the market is overall in this area in my like from what I have seen and from what I have researched. So keep that in the back of your head. Next slide. Um, Also there's additional resources that like we offer, such as the basic, like again, I already mentioned earlier, the basic needs assistance form, child and food pantry, personal hygiene program, housing consultation, emergency housing. So please feel to like rely on us if you need any help. You can come out to our basic needs fair, which is happening week 2. I'm pretty confident it's week 2 or week 3 of spring quarter. We have like a roommate mixer. You can find people in person. And again, I highly encourage you guys to kind of go back to the initial website that San Diego offers for housing listings, like finding a roommate, because it will make or break a deal. As much as it's important for you to find the right lease and the right price, it's also important for you to like share that space with the right people so you get along with them, because that space will no longer just be like a space that will be your home for a whole year, depending on your lease, or even 6 months, or even if it's a month-to-month lease. So I highly encourage you to give the time that it takes and the time that it needs for you to have better quality of like housing in the following year, especially if you're living off campus. And again, use the right financial tools and be more financially responsible and have your pros and cons and like your must and your not must, especially for your financial budget. I think that would seal the deal for you guys' search. Um, I would say other than yep, that's it. Thank you.
I'd like
Okay,
to
well,
now introduce John Carlos, Senor, our Director of Student Legal Services.
hi, sorry about that. Thanks, Dan, and I apologize for speaking over you. And I was busy trying to answer some questions, some very reasonable questions about off-campus living. I know that the bulk of the questions that y'all have involve living on campus, so I'm not going to take too much time here. But nevertheless, there are some things that my office that we really strongly recommend be considered. So, as Dan said, my name is John Carlos Sr. I'm the Director at Student Legal Services. Our office provides free confidential counseling, education, and referrals to all currently registered UCSD students. So as long as y'all have students enrolled, they are able to come to make an appointment and talk to one of 2 free attorneys to help with any and all legal issues. And the biggest one is, of course, landlord-tenant law for folks living off campus. But pretty much anything and everything, and more. It's oftentimes students that are being referred by their parents to come talk to us. So we really appreciate all those referrals. So let's get into it in terms of just some top 5 renting tips. Again, this is for off campus. I will say for on campus, fortunately the folks at HDH just do everything they can to make on campus residents happy. So they've, they're pretty much a great landlord at all times. So really, I want to talk about the off-campus folks, because presumably, eventually, your student may at some point live off campus. So number one, and as was mentioned by Mosma, in in her presentation, you got to be careful of scams. You don't want to send any money if possible until you at least see the place. As was suggested, you could do a reverse Google search to make sure. A lot of times there'll be a generic picture of a building, but if you do a reverse image search, you can find that maybe those pictures are used elsewhere. We recommend that students go by the residence, make sure that it in fact exists, make sure that the listing is for a specific property. Overall, don't send any money until the place is seen if possible. This can, of course, be very difficult for our international students. Nevertheless, scams are happening, unfortunately, all the time, and so don't send any money at least until the property is verified. Hopefully, the student is able to see the property. Um, and there's a contract and hopefully meets with the landlord at some point. That's number one. Number two, all tenants slash roommates are jointly and severally liable. That is a fancy way of saying that each tenant that signs a lease is essentially responsible not only for themselves but for each other as well. And so if a group of three students signs a lease, um, and one of those students doesn't pay their share of next month's rent, not only can the student who didn't pay their share be financially responsible, but so can the other two. And this also exists for examples of where there's a co-signer or guarantor. So a lot of landlords will require two times or two and a half times the income of potential tenants before before they're willing to rent to tenants. And as students, of course, that's next to impossible in almost all circumstances. And so in those situations, landlords may ask that tenants find, typically a parent or guardian to essentially be legally responsible in the event that they're unable to pay the rent themselves. So I would really highly recommend, if that's a situation, number one, I try to discourage it just because of the joint and several liability rule. A co-signer or guarantor is frequently agreeing not only to be responsible for their student, their child, but also for everybody else, again, that's listed on the lease. And unfortunately, just so you know, landlords typically aren't going to write up individual leases for each and every tenant. They don't have to, and they're typically not going to do that. Now, we encourage students to utilize a roommate agreement, one of which can be found, a sample can be found on the Student Legal Services website. The roommate agreement basically just kind of outlines what the deal is. It doesn't change this joint and several liability nature that exists. But at the very least, it kind of clarifies what everybody's understanding is in terms of how much each person is paying in terms of their share. Who's going to take care of what utilities. Of course, and as I'm sure you all know well, it's really important to with the person that you're living with, that you have sort of a mutual understanding as to noise levels and having guests over and cleanliness and things like that. So those are all things that hopefully can get addressed in a roommate agreement. Number three, get renter's insurance, and this is particularly if y'all, as parents or guardians, become co-signers or guarantors of leases. Get the best insurance that you can afford, is what I tell our students. This can include personal property coverage, so their individual items in case of loss, theft, or damage, liability coverage, which a lot of times landlords are requiring because it protects them as well as the tenant, property damage, flood. Some have flood policies. Some include mold or mildew policies, which unfortunately more and more is becoming an issue. And then loss of use coverage, which isn't in every policy, but I really recommend it in the occasion where a student or a group of students is unable to live in their particular place because of some sort of catastrophic flood or damage. This basically covers the cost of temporary housing for the period of time that say the place needs to be worked on. If as a parent or guardian you own a home, you could maybe talk to your insurance agent about adding them, as well, of course, as bundling policies with auto coverage or other types of coverage that your student might have. In any event, get the best you can afford. Some landlords, as I said, are requiring it, but a lot of times I'm finding that those are limited in terms of their coverage. So get the best you can, is what I say. Next slide, please. And then just to sort of wrap up a couple other things, one of the big issues that we see is security deposits. It's, of course, an amount of money that a tenant pays when they're moving in that the landlord's supposed to hold on until the end of the lease and then return to them. But they can, of course, keep parts of it to cover any repairs, cleaning, or unpaid rent still owing at the end of the lease. So I always recommend to students that when they sign a lease and they're ready to move in, that they take pictures of everything before they move a single stick of furniture, and they take lots of pictures, that they document the condition of the place, in other words, because they're going to have to prove that when they move out. And their responsibility is to leave the place as they found it, is to return it in as good condition, minus normal wear and tear. So take lots of pictures. Some landlords will will provide an inspection checklist, which is essentially a physical version of an inspection, a written version. That's helpful too, of course. And if they don't provide one, one can be found on our website. Tenants need to be mindful of language in California leases that say that the lease automatically turns into a month to month, unless 30 days prior notice is given. Sometimes students will get caught not giving enough notice in time for if a lease does require that. So that's language that needs to be identified. And then, of course, when it comes to repair requests and other concerns, always put it in writing with the landlord, even if it's an emergency that involves a phone call. Follow it up with an email, follow it up with a letter just to have something in writing to prove that communication was made. And then, of course, lastly, have your student contact us. Unfortunately, you as parents or guardians cannot make appointments for your students, but encourage your students to come talk to us, and we'd be happy to do that and go over any leases. We send an email out in March, April, to every single student saying, hey, if you want us to look at your lease for free before you sign it, please contact us. As you might imagine, slots fill up pretty quickly when we do that. So yeah, please keep us in mind. And if you're for any issues that your student might have, whether related to UCSD or not, whether related to off-campus housing or not. Thanks, y'all. I really appreciate your time.
Okay, if I could have all our presenters join us on camera so we can kind of rapid fire as many of these questions that we have bookmarked. Thank you all for utilizing the question and answer feature. Just to let you know, our team on the back end has already answered 91 questions because they're amazing. So we're going to go through a few of the most frequently asked questions here. So the first question we have is, if a student submits everything on time, is it likely they'll be able to live in the same college that they're in?
Okay, so that it's going to be dependent if you are housing your college of registration, because sometimes also as a first year student, you might be assigned to an overflow. So it's all dependent. Typically, you will be have the accessibility to self-select in your college of registration. But we do also have overflow. So for example, like Ravel College doesn't have enough rooms for all our room selection students. So we have to open up other colleges. So it varies based on what's available and how many students we have during the process.
Thanks for that answer, Alex. Here's a question that I know I saw a few times, but it has to do with study abroad, is how should students who are studying abroad in the fall go about securing housing for the rest of the 2026-27 academic year?
So if a student is going through the room selection process, if you are a current resident and you have to go through the room selection process, you will have to cancel your contract because you are studying abroad. And this specific question is for fall quarter. So you won't be here for fall. You will have to cancel. And then once you come back, you will have to go through the wait list. Now, students that are studying abroad, let's say for spring quarter, if you are going through the room selection process with us and need to terminate your contract because you won't be here for spring, You want to make sure you reach out to us because we can provide exceptions for students that will be coming back in the fall. So that way we can keep your room selection process with that exception. So we always encourage students, if you're studying abroad, reach out to us, ask the questions so we can give you the guidance of what to do depending on that quarter or semester that the quarter that you are going off campus.
Good. Thanks again, Alex. John Carlos, this question's for you. A parent asked that if they receive a copy of their lease, can they bring it by your office to get your opinion before them and their student sign it?
Yes, excellent. Thank you for that question. And the answer is yes, absolutely. Now, again, due to the confidential nature of our services, it would be the student that would have to meet with, although if they, of course, want to bring their parent or guardian along, they're more than welcome to do that. But simply put, the answer is yes. And by the way, another question that I saw is, can we provide assistance in resolving disagreements with the landlord? Yes, absolutely. Now, one thing that we're not able to represent students in court or otherwise, but we can absolutely help them. I've written thousands of letters over the years, and it's something we can absolutely help your student with. Thank you.
Thanks, John Carlos. Malzma, a question about searching for an off-campus apartment is when would be the best time for students to begin their search?
Perfect. Yes. What is it called? I would encourage doing it 2 months before. So I would say if anything, like this is a really good time. Like it's February, we have March, April, May. I would say like give yourself a grace of 2 months to fully look before making a decision. Next quarter, we also have our off-campus housing fair, so you can also pull up to the fair or follow Basic Needs on Instagram, and then you will know like exactly what times and what dates and what like apartment listings people will be coming here on campus, and you can ask them questions. Be prepared, come prepared, I guess. And yeah, I think giving yourself 2 months in advance is a really good place for you to start at.
Great, thanks so much for that advice. I've got two dining questions coming at you, Alex. First is what dining options are available for students who will be living off campus? And also, if there is a balance on the dining plan, does it roll over into the second year?
Okay. So students who live off campus, we do have a commuter dining plan that's $1,500 that can be purchased, but it has to be paid in full. So you would have to purchase at the very beginning, the full term, and then you have that for the academic year. For the other question of rollover, it depends if the student is a resident, on-campus resident the second year. So typically our dining dollar rollover, if a student completes their full housing contract term for the whole term, so meaning that they are ending at mid-June without terminating their contract, their dining rollover will be extended an extra quarter. So that goes into fall of the following year. So it typically ends in mid-December of this current year. But if a student does have a housing contract the next year with a dining plan, that continues to be rolled over. It's like never ending as long as they have a housing contract with the dining plan the following year.
Great, thank you. Okay, just a couple more. I know that we're not going to get to every question today. So if your question has not been answered, please feel free to email our office, Parent and Family Programs. Our email address is parents@ucsd.edu, and we'll make sure that we get your question into the right hands. I've seen this come up a few times. Can students stay in their current residence for next year, continue to live in the same, not only the same building, but the same suite or room?
It's a yearly process, so they cannot stay in the same room unless you are a PCW, which is a Pepper Canyon West resident. They have option to do a room retention. Those are the only ones which are 12-month contracts. So that's a little different. These are for our transfer students. If you did get that email for room retention, that's exactly what it means, that you get to keep the exact same room. For our 9-month contracts, that's completely different process. So you're going to have that self-select option based on your college of registration, and possibly if there's overflow, because it depends on how many spaces we need for the room selection process, because it's all determined on also how many, like the gender, right? So depending on what gender is needed. So every college of registration might have additional areas as listed for an option, but it all depends on what's available when you log into your room selection process.
And with that, a question about guarantees and the process and application timeline. So a parent has asked, is the sooner a student can get everything completed and submitted, increase their chances and likelihood of guaranteeing a room? And then also, if their student is guaranteed and they choose to apply for either an apartment or a regular resident hall room, is there a need to make a backup plan? Saying if the choice is an apartment over a resident hall room, will they be guaranteed an apartment?
Got it. So, the first question, it doesn't matter when they apply or complete their contract, as long as everybody does it by the deadline of February 26th. That's all we need, because everything else is based on lottery time. So everything's random based, just to make sure that we are fair with everybody. So the students will get email notifications. So that's what we say, check your UCSD email with all the information. We provide everything there for you. So they will get their lottery time, when to log into the housing portal. I do want to add, because I did see a question saying, why do we have to wait until our time to log into the housing portal? Our system does not allow the capacity of all the logins and entries, so it will freeze up. So that's the reason why we have to have it based on communities and kind of limited per communities and how many students can log in. But the other question, Dan, was about can you remind me what was the second question?
Sure. If they're guaranteed housing next year and they follow everything to the letter and they select an apartment as their primary option, are they guaranteed to live in an apartment?
So this is different because as room selection process, they're not selecting preferences. And I think this is where there's a little bit of confusion with the parents. When they first completed their process for first year, they had to select a preference because they were assigned a space. In this case, there's no preferences because the student will be able to self-select. So when they have their lottery time and it's their time to sign in based on their college of registration, they will be able to see all the spaces that are available. And that way they can select whatever space they want at that time, if it's free.
Great. Last question is, does the university have any recommended options for summer storage for students?
Summer. Oh, that's a good question. I don't, Myra and Maddie, do we have any? I think we had, I'm sorry. We had like a vendor, but I don't remember if it's still active. Whoever asked this question, if you can email us at housingcontracts@ucsd.edu, that way we can give you that proper answer. I don't remember at the top of my head right now.
Well, thank you three so much for spending time with us this afternoon to cover everything that goes into living on campus next year. We really appreciate it. And again, if your question was not answered today, please feel free to email parents@ucsd.edu as well, and we can ensure that your question gets to the right department. If you would like to share this recording with a family member or rewatch it with translated subtitles, you can do so on our YouTube channel once the recording is posted by utilizing YouTube's auto translation tool. So you can do that by following the steps on screen, selecting subtitles, auto translate, and the preferred language. Again, thank you, folks, for joining us for today's session of the Trying Family web series. We know that housing is always on top of mind for next year, even though it's only the beginning of February. If you have any questions, again, I mentioned that you can email us on the email on screen. Keep in contact with our social media accounts as well to see posts and updates. And that last social media name at the end is our YouTube channel. Make sure to subscribe to that because that's where this recording will be housed, as well as all of our previous Trying Family web series recordings from the past 6 years now. And I think you could probably go through and see that John Carlos Senior is in every single housing session we've done because he's such a rock when it comes to covering this material. And you'll also notice I have many different haircuts. But thank you so much for joining us. Again, we'll leave this room up for just a couple more minutes so our staff can finish the questions they're answering now. But if you would like your question to be answered and it wasn't, or you have a follow-up, please email us at parents.ucsd.edu. And again, thank you so much for joining us.